It was Halloween night, and the full moon hung low in the cloudy sky. The air was crisp and carried a sense of excitement as costumed children filled the neighborhood streets, going door to door in search of treats. But what happened that night was far from the usual Halloween festivities. My friends and I had gathered for our annual Halloween tradition of watching scary movies and sharing ghost stories. We had decided to change things up this year and take a ghost tour through a nearby haunted forest. The forest had a sinister reputation, and rumors of strange occurrences and eerie sightings had always intrigued us. As we ventured deeper into the woods, the sounds of laughter and trick-or-treaters faded away, replaced by an eerie silence. The twisted branches of ancient trees formed a dense canopy overhead, obscuring the moonlight and casting ominous shadows. We were armed with flashlights and our own bravado, but nothing could prepare us for what awaited. Our guide, an older man with a grizzled appearance, led us through the labyrinthine trails, regaling us with tales of restless spirits and unsolved mysteries. We listened intently, our imaginations running wild as he spoke of a haunted house hidden deep within the forest. It was said that anyone who ventured inside on Halloween night would be forever cursed. As the tour continued, the air grew colder, and a sense of unease settled over us. We could hear rustling in the underbrush and the distant cries of owls. Suddenly, the guide stopped and pointed to a dilapidated cabin nestled in a clearing. It was the infamous haunted house. The cabin loomed like a spectral sentinel, its windows shattered and its door hanging by a single hinge. Our guide explained that this was our chance to test our courage, to prove that we were not afraid of the legends. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, we stepped inside. The interior was as decrepit as the exterior, with rotting floorboards and tattered remnants of wallpaper. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and our flashlights revealed dust-covered furniture frozen in time. We explored room after room, our voices whooshed, half expecting to encounter a restless spirit. But it was in the basement that we made a chilling discovery. There, in the dim light, we found a series of crude drawings etched onto the walls. They depicted scenes of violence and despair, all rendered with a manic fervor. We couldn't decipher the meaning behind them, but they sent shivers down our spines. As we continued our exploration, we heard a faint sound, like a distant whisper carried on the wind. It was a name, repeated over and over. Emily. We followed the sound to a small hidden chamber at the back of the basement. There we found a child's doll, its porcelain face shattered and its dress stained with dirt. Our guide's voice quivered as he explained that Emily was the name of a young girl who had gone missing in the forest many years ago. The doll had once belonged to her, and it was said that her spirit still lingered in the forest, searching for her lost toy. We decided to leave the cabin, our nerves on edge. But as we stepped outside, we were met with an eerie sight. The forest had transformed. The trees seemed to reach out toward us with twisted branches, and the shadows danced with malevolent glee. It was as if the very forest itself had come alive. Panic set in, and we ran, following the dim glow of our flashlights. But no matter which direction we turned, the forest seemed to stretch endlessly before us. We were trapped, lost in a nightmarish labyrinth of trees. And then we heard it. The sound of a child's laughter echoing through the darkness. It was followed by whispers, soft and pleading, as if someone was calling out to us. "Help me," the voice implored. "Find my doll." Terrified and disoriented, we followed the voice deeper and deeper into the forest until we came upon a small makeshift grave. There, buried beneath the cold earth, we found the porcelain doll, its shattered face staring up at us. As we unearthed the doll, the forest seemed to release its grip on us. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and we were able to find our way back to the tour's starting point. Our guide was waiting for us, his face pale and filled with dread. He explained that the forest had a way of ensnaring those who dared to trespass on Halloween night, and that the spirit of Emily had chosen us to help her find her lost doll. We had unknowingly become a part of the haunting legend, and we would carry the memory of that night with us forever. To this day, we can't explain what happened in that forest, and we're left with more questions than answers. But one thing is certain: Halloween night will never be the same for any of us. The Halloween night of 1998 was the stuff of legends, a night etched in my memory with a terror that refuses to fade. I was just a child then, donning my vampire costume and setting out for a night of trick-or-treating with my friends. Little did I know, this Halloween would be unlike any other. As darkness fell, we ventured into the quiet neighborhood, our bags ready to be filled with candy. The streets were adorned with glowing pumpkins and eerie decorations, casting eerie shadows that danced like specters in the moonlight. Our laughter echoed through the still night air, a stark contrast to what awaited us. We reached the end of the street, where a long, winding path led to an old, abandoned mansion that had always been the source of local legends. The mansion was said to be cursed, its previous owners meeting gruesome fates. It was the one place we had always avoided, but curiosity got the best of us that night. The mansion loomed before us, its decrepit facade exuding a malevolent energy that sent shivers down my spine. The windows were broken, and the once grand entrance was now overgrown with ivy. My friends dared me to go inside, and in my youthful bravado, I couldn't refuse. As I crossed the threshold, an overwhelming feeling of dread washed over me. The air inside was heavy with the scent of decay, and the floorboards creaked beneath my feet. My friends remained outside, their faces filled with apprehension. I explored the dimly lit hallway, my flashlight revealing faded wallpaper and crumbling plaster. Strange whispers seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, as if the very house was trying to communicate with me. My heart pounded in my chest as I ventured deeper into the mansion. I entered a room that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was enormous, with impossibly high ceilings that stretched into darkness. In the center of the room stood an ornate mirror, its surface covered in dust and cobwebs. But what unnerved me the most was my reflection. In the mirror, I saw myself, but not as I appeared in my vampire costume. Instead, I saw myself as a withered, ancient figure, my skin stretched tight over skeletal features. The sight was so grotesque that I stumbled backward in horror, my heart racing. That's when I heard it. A soft, haunting melody that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. It was a mournful tune, played on a piano that couldn't possibly exist in the empty room. The melody filled the air, its notes like the cries of tortured souls. As I followed the sound, I came upon a grand piano, its keys moving of their own accord. No one was playing it, yet the music continued. I watched in terror as the keys pressed down, producing a haunting melody that sent shivers down my spine. And then I saw her, a ghostly figure seated at the piano, her long flowing gown tattered and faded. Her face was a mask of sorrow, and her eyes held a longing that pierced my very soul. She played on, her fingers moving gracefully across the keys, her mournful gaze fixed on me. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. The room seemed to close in around me, and I could feel the weight of centuries pressing down on me. The ghostly pianist's music grew louder and more frenetic, filling the room with an oppressive energy. With a final, chilling crescendo, the piano keys fell silent, and the room returned to darkness. The ghostly figure faded away, leaving me alone in the cold, empty room. I stumbled out of the mansion, my heart pounding, and found my friends waiting outside. They had seen nothing, but they could tell from the terror in my eyes that something had happened. I never spoke of that night, and I never returned to the old mansion. But the memory of the ghostly pianist and her mournful melody has haunted my dreams ever since. To this day, I can't explain what I witnessed in that cursed mansion, and I can't shake the feeling that something ancient and malevolent still resides within its walls, waiting to ensnare anyone foolish enough to enter on Halloween night. Clouds. I was out with my friends, dressed in our scariest costumes, ready for a night of tricks and treats. Little did we know that what awaited us would be far more terrifying than any costume. As we roamed the dimly lit streets, laughter and the rustling of leaves filled the air. Our bags were getting heavier with each house we visited, and the excitement of Halloween was at its peak. But as we reached the outskirts of town, our cheerful spirits gave way to unease. There, on the edge of the woods, stood a ramshackle old house, long abandoned and shrouded in darkness. The stories about the place were numerous. A hermit had lived there years ago, driven mad by solitude and grief. It was said that his spirit still haunted the house, and on Halloween night, it came alive. My friends dared me to go closer, and my youthful bravado got the best of me. I stepped toward the house, my heart pounding in my chest. The wind whistled through the trees, and the overgrown bushes seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers. As I reached the front porch, a shiver ran down my spine. The porch creaked beneath my feet, and the wooden boards seemed to groan in protest. The front door was ajar, and an eerie glow emanated from within. The temptation was too great. I had to go inside. The air inside was heavy with the scent of rot and decay. Dust danced in the dim light, and cobwebs clung to every corner. I moved cautiously through the darkened rooms, my flashlight revealing forgotten relics of a bygone era. It was as if time had stood still in that house, frozen in a perpetual state of decay. As I explored further, I heard a faint sound, a whisper, soft and haunting, that seemed to come from the walls themselves. "Help me," it pleaded. "Please, help me." I followed the sound to a narrow staircase that led to the basement. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, and I descended into the darkness. The basement was dank and musty, the air thick with the scent of damp earth. There in the corner of the basement, I saw her. A woman, emaciated and disheveled, her wild eyes fixed on me. She was bound in chains, her wrists and ankles raw and bloody from struggling against her restraints. "Please," she begged, her voice trembling with fear. "You have to help me. He's coming back." Before I could react, I heard heavy footsteps descending the stairs. I turned to see a man, wild-eyed and disheveled, clutching a knife in his trembling hand. His face contorted with madness as he approached, and I realized that he was the hermit, the one they had warned us about. He muttered to himself, his words a jumble of incoherent ramblings. He moved toward the woman, his intentions clear. I knew I had to do something, anything to stop him. With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged at the hermit, knocking the knife from his hand. We grappled on the basement floor, his strength surprising for a man so seemingly frail. I could hear the woman's frantic cries for help as we struggled, each of us fighting for our lives. Finally, with a burst of strength, I managed to overpower the hermit and wrestle him into submission. My friends, alerted by the commotion, had called the police, and soon sirens echoed through the night. The police arrived and took the hermit into custody, rescuing the woman from her chains. As they led the hermit away, his vacant eyes locked onto mine, and I could see the depths of his madness. The woman was safe, but the horror of that Halloween night would stay with me forever. The encounter with the crazed hermit had been more terrifying than any ghost story, a reminder that sometimes the true monsters are the ones hiding in plain sight. To this day, I can't forget the fear in the woman's eyes or the madness in the hermit's. Halloween night had taken a dark turn, revealing the true horrors that can lurk in the shadows.